Sometimes the focus is really strong on the artists. And I was just explaining to the guests here that in the first moment we were kind of disappointed because the artists couldn't be here.
Yes.
But then we thought, why don't we just put the focus for once at least a little bit more on the galleries? And that's a real pleasure because I think Martin Schwander, very often the focus is on the artist, especially concerning the Baloise Art Prize, because we were always focused and almost always having them on the seats, on the podiums.
Always.
Always.
It's the first
really
time,
the first time.
Sorry for that. Sorry for that pressure.
You don't have no way, because we thought it's a good thing to do now. So yeah, we took the occasion, and thanks for being present at all. Martin Schwander. Let's talk a little bit more general, because the statements, they had over 200 works to decide on 18, and they're exhibited right now. What would you say? You've been walking through that whole statement exhibition this morning already, very intensively. What do you think about this year? We're going to stay a little bit more general for the moment, for the beginning.
Yeah. No, I think it's a very good year, a very intense year, a lot of contradictions also, going from one booth to the other yesterday. It's, you get a kind of spectrum of our times. You have very personal works, very introverted works. You have works which reflect social, political, gender issues. So it's, I think, the jury which selected these 18 positions did a very good job. So yesterday we really had a very good time in going from one booth to the other.
There was something interesting as well, because you were mentioning the subjects where most of the artworks and the pieces are about, like gender, like politics and social criticism
ecological
as well.
issues.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But you were mentioning this morning something interesting, that you almost can see a tendency back to craftsmanship. So many artists are starting to work on stuff again.
Yeah.
We do have digital works as well.
Virtual reality works.
Yeah, we do have. How would you explain this going back, kind of? Do you see a tendency in general?
Yeah, we have several artists working with trying to connect with their cultural tradition, with craftsmanship in their own. I mean, Suki is a good example for this. She really relates to the Korean past, to Korean traditions, but not in a reactionary way. She really tries to also bring this together with our contemporary world, and I think that's why one of the reasons why we selected Suki's work, for example.
Right. You bring me or give me the perfect platform to start with. Patrick Lee, I'm sorry, Alex, for the moment.
Ladies first.
Patrick, Martin was just mentioning Suki's work. First of all, I would love to know what is or why is this statement sector so attractive for galleries as well, for your gallery as well? I mean, you're a big gallery in Seoul as well. Why did you start and go for this? This year's with Suki.
I'd love to. First of all, I'd like to thank everyone here in Baloise for this tremendous honor and the support you do for artists and galleries. 20th year is very impressive, so it's an honor to be here. To answer the question, statements as a gallerist has always been a very important sort of platform for the advancement of emerging contemporary artists, and it's become that because of, I think, the real passion, the diligence, the intelligence of the people who choose the artists, and that's my peers of the gallerists. And it's sort of, I think, within the sector of the art world that we inhabit, it's sort of an ideal, I guess, as an artist, a serious artist whose practice is, very deep, I think. So it's always sort of in our mind, wow, this would be a great thing to do, statements. In this particular case, and this is the second time we've done statements, we thought Suki's work, given where her career is now, her practice, we thought it would be the perfect opportunity to sort of provide this new work to the audience here. and that was the main reason.
And obviously it was the perfect
Well,
match.
just to be in is an honor, and to be recognized by the jury is a great thrill. So we're truly honored.
Yes, and your gallery is really focused on Korean artwork. So you're specifically working with Korean artists like Suki's. How would you describe, just shortly, then I will switch over to Alex, how would you describe the Korean art scene for the moment, this contemporary art for actually today? How would you describe that? Because there might be people around who would love to get to know a little bit.
I would love to have you visit Seoul. I think the Korean contemporary art scene is in a very interesting time. We've run the gallery now just over 10 years, and I remember starting, the contemporary art community knew Japan or Chinese contemporary art, but Korea maybe not so much, but I think we're at a wonderful time because of many different factors. I think firstly, artists I think are great. A lot of them studying abroad and doing amazing work and engaging with new audiences. And we have curators now who are, many of them Korean American, who are at great institutions around the world, Europe, the States, Asia, and they're also pushing the practice. And then of course you have galleries that do their part as well, I think, and writers and academia. So all these things sort of came together. And I do remember, if I could pick one time, was one of the Gwangju Biennales, which is a very important art platform in Asia as a biennale. And Massimo Gioni did it some years ago, 2008, I think, 10 maybe. And that really brought a lot of people to Korea. Right. And I remember thinking this could be like sort of a watershed moment, and people came and really thought this is interesting, the scene here. And so now I believe with Art Basel Hong Kong and a lot of people visiting Asia, a lot more people are visiting Seoul, and it's a dynamic scene, I think. So.
Wow, yeah. One should have the opportunity to go there.
I hope so,
Suki's work, I was just telling to our guests here that I didn't really find out what the title of her work is. Does it have a title?
The installation itself doesn't have a title, but each individual work does have a title. Right. There's
we're
5 works.
Out.
Yeah, there are 5 works we're showing. So they do have titles, yes.
Great. We will see that and take a closer look at that. Sure. Thank you so far, because we will talk about... Yes, sure,
just
Martin.
One thing, I think it's worth to be mentioned that Suki is the 2nd Korean Art Prize winner, which is great. I mean, in 2007, Haegu Yang was the winner of the Baloise Art Prize.
It's really an honor for Suki as well, because they are friends, and Haegu is amazing. I mean, this prize for her was an incredibly important part of her career. I know that for a fact. Her in a gallery at the time, she was with Barbara Wien Gallery, I think, when she showed. And, I always relay this story as a famous story of Haegu. For 10 years, they're toiling away, young gallery, the artist, conceptual art, very difficult sales, I guess. And that was the first time I think they actually sold the work. And I think they were at the park afterwards, crying. They were so happy. And I think it was a watershed moment. So it really is an honor, yeah. So it's nice to have that connection with Haegu.
Yeah, wonderful.
Thank you for mentioning.
Thank you for the input, Martin. So, Alex, your gallery, Mort Charpentier in Paris, has an incredible, interesting focus. It's not traditional French artists or artworks, but something else. Would you, in your words, because you know it much better than I do, what your focus in your galleries with the artists you choose is?
Yes, actually. Well, first of all, I wanna extend my gratitude of being here and in the name of Lawrence. And actually, what was really interesting, this video was fantastic because you realize that all these young emerging artists are the stars from today. So obviously, the Baloise Prize means something for the galleries and the artists, and this was the proof. Now to getting back to your question, we have a particular kind of positioning. Myself, I am Colombian Lebanese, and my partner is French, very, very French. So actually, this collision actually kind of works. And we both come from we both studied political science, and we both had different professional lives before just leaving everything and getting back to opening a gallery. But since the beginning and without knowing, we had a line, which is Actually, a lot of galleries struggle to have a line. For us, it was evident, not because we were smartest, but because it was the only thing that we really liked, actually. So our focus is really in engaged artists, all sort of engagements. It can be political, it can be social, it can be sexual, philosophical, but a sort of engagement is not just art for the art. I'm not saying art for the art is not good. It's totally not my point, but we try to build this connection between our artists, and I think that the main objective of our gallery is that if one day we decide to put one artist or the other to dialogue, that dialogue has to work.
Yeah.
Otherwise, it's not matching. So sometimes we have very, very engaged works. I think is the case from the one that we are presenting here. But we always try to find, an angle of analysis that either if you like it or not, or you agree with that or not, that's not the point. But it made you think and make you, question yourself or question what you are seeing or what you are experiencing. It's that it worked out.
Yeah, thank you for this very interesting insight, because the story behind you, Monsieur Charpentier and Monsieur Moore, that I didn't know, and that's really, that makes sense, absolutely. So you've been mentioning Lawrence Abu Hamdan. You chose him to be present here, or you decided to apply for at least, and you made it till, the Baloise Art Prize. His artwork is called the Shouting Valley.
Shouting Valley.
Sorry,
Shouting Valley.
Das schreiende Tal, translated to really give everybody an idea what the name of this artwork is. And it's a video installation combined with architectural input, like the walls are sound absorbing.
Yes.
A very political thing. I would say, kind of, I don't know if I'm right. If I'm standing in the booth, in this kind of shouting valley inside, you can hear real, it's no fake news at all, real for iPhone footage of the year 2011 on the Golan Heights. Could you
Very
please,
good.
Could you, I prepared a little bit. Could you please describe what this should provoke, or maybe as well do to the visitor standing in the booth, listening to these shouts and footage pieces of this very important day, the 15th of May 2011 it was?
Yeah, well, what Patrick was saying is very interesting, that for a long time they were presenting the artists and not selling anything. Actually, Lawrence is one of the first artists we started working with. And for a couple of years, we were just struggling to present him. And not struggling to present him. We presented him without selling anything. And then suddenly there was a switch, and people understood what his work was about. And actually, he is very interested in the social, political, and scientific implications of sound. So what is interesting about him is he's not also an artist, but he's also an expert in sound. So, for example, when there's a conflict where sound is involved, the UN nations or Amnesty International, they can call him as an expert to analyze sound.
They do that in real life?
Yeah, actually.
Oh,
and
wow.
he works closely with MIT also as an expert in sound. So he's not just an artist, and it's not an activist either. He really knows about sound, actually. He's really aware of that situation. So what we did in this booth, and to be very short, is that we recreated this Shouting Valley, which is a disputed territory between Israel and Syria, where during the conflict in 1967, they created a border, and some of the families, of the living families, they were separated. And we have to take in account that this is one in the 60s, and even today, these families are farmers, and people are like in the mountains, so they don't have cell phones, and they don't have possibilities to communicate. So the only way they have is to shout from one side to the other of the valley, because this valley has some acoustic curiosity that allows that when you are from one side to the other, you can actually listen. So in this particular work, we are using footage from 2011, which was an important date because in a short period of time, the border collapsed. So the families and the people who were separated for so many years, for a very short period of time, they had the opportunity not only to listen to them and to see them, but to hug or to say or to touch each other for a very short time. And then the border closes and it's still closed. So what we are trying to, and what we have to understand, it's that as a gallery, dealing with these political, difficult subjects, we are not saying that the conflict is good or bad, or who's the winner or who's not. What we are interested here is to show that even in conflictual situations and extreme situations, people are able to communicate. So that's really the main point of the work. So you have to take aside, all the charge of the conflict, because we don't want to deal with that, but we want to deal with these amazing situations that happen and that creates these opportunities to show these kind of works.
You know what just happened with me when I was listening to Alex? You kind of transformed into Lawrence. I don't know if you want to be compared.
Oh, I wish. He's smarter than me, for sure.
No, but you kind of, that's representing you as a gallerist. I kind of felt that you do know him very well. And that's obviously as well one of the most important things for you as a gallery. So thank you for that moment. That was really special.
Thank you for
you
that.
will have the opportunity to go into the booth later on. Let's talk about Suki's work. I was mentioning already that you're very much focused on Korean artwork and craftsmanship as well. But this very Jangambo thing, I didn't exactly know. Would you please make it as short as possible and explain what Suki tried to show? Because this is so filigrane, it's so cute. There's so much handcraftship, and you said it's 5 pieces. It's I don't know if it's intellectually, or I don't know your Korean history so well, but could you please, I think most of the people would be happy to explain it to us as shortly and as for closest point as possible.
Okay, well, you mentioned Jeonggangbo specifically. Jeonggangbo is a 15th century system of Korean musical notation. And it's a system where there's a grid of boxes, and each grid has a Chinese character that explains the tone, the length of the sound, things like that. And what Suki has done is appropriated that system in a way. It's really touching with Oriental philosophies and historical art practices. So in her system, it's actually not so much focusing on strict musical notation, but actions, choreography, ways of painting, things like that. So that is really the backbone of her artistic system, of how she can link sort of the historical philosophies with her current contemporary practice. So I don't know if that makes so much sense, but that's sort of how she's, utilizing the philosophies with the visual output.
It does make sense, and I think it's a rather holistic approach she has in her work as well. Mm-hmm. Probably,
absolutely.
As it sounds.
No, absolutely. I think it also goes back to the process of painting in a way. In our booth, we have 5 sculptures, though she would consider that a sort of manifestation of painting. Not so much in the traditional representational sense, but she studied Oriental painting. And also very philosophical, grinding the ink, and also, she's staring at a piece of mulberry paper, and you think, okay, what is here? The visible, the invisible space, the void. What am I going to put into this space? So she extrapolates that into sculpture and into performance, really the theory of what am I trying to accomplish with this painting, basically. So that's what you're seeing in the booth.
Martin is already ready.
Question, does she also make music? Or?
A lot of her work does have sound.
Yeah.
She doesn't compose by herself, but she does collaborate a lot with sound artists.
With friends, colleagues.
And also with dance performers as well. But she does the choreography. Mm-hmm. Yes, but sound is also very important.
So she should be here.
I wish she was here.
She should be here.
She wishes she was here. She's working on a film and to scheduling conflicts. So unfortunately, she's much more charming in prettier than I am.
No, that's not what I was saying. Not at all. I prefer having, male neighbors here. But we're running out of time already with our short podium. I would love to finish Martin Schwander and let us know why the jury and the president himself was convinced, and maybe 3 words for why or Lawrence's work or Suki's work were chosen for the winners of the Baloise Art Prize 2018. That's challenging. I'm sorry for that.
Very tough question. Very tough question.
But we've heard a lot already. So.
No, I think Lawrence, you mentioned it already. I think the interesting thing is maybe not the content, but what the content provokes in the spectator, who is really in between these two sides. And then you start to think about a lot of things, about human being and all these things which, and these emotions are so strong that you really are destabilized. And I think that's one of the great things about this work, because it's not about moral issues, it's really about human being in extreme situations. And I think that's the great thing about this piece. And Suki, I think we were, mesmerized, I say, by this beautiful subtlety of these works, the richness also, the lot of associations we had, even if we are not great experts in Korean art, we had really the feeling that it's extraordinary, refined kind of work. And we are looking forward to see then the installation she will make at the museum in Luxembourg, the Podium, because the piece of Suki will be given to the museum in Luxembourg, and Lawrence installation then will be shown at the Hamburger Bahnhof, which is part of the Nationalgalerie in Berlin.
Wow. Thank you so much. That was really intense and very interesting. And for a change, we had the gallerists who almost transformed into the artists.
Sorry for that.
Be sorry. Wow, you did it well. Thank you so much for this experience, and thank you for your time.
Thank you so much.
Meine Damen und Herren.